And this is where I always tell people, look, follow the money.
It requires effort. It requires engagement, true engagement. You got to say yes. Some way, somehow, say yes.
That's where the innovation comes. We cannot be complacent.
Welcome everyone to episode 25 of Move, Crush, Count. I am your host, Scott Joseph. This is a podcast that's produced and sponsored by J&L Marketing. We have a special guest with us today, John Barr. He is the general manager of Findlay Toyota out in Henderson, Nevada. If you are looking to increase sales and profits, John is your guy. You want to listen to this episode. He runs one of the largest Toyota stores in the country. They're one of the most profitable Toyota stores in the country. Doesn't matter how many you sell if you can't make any money doing it, but he does it through an incredible customer experience. His culture and his leadership really stand out in this interview. So let's dive in. We'll introduce John.
You're listening to Move, Crush, Count, hosted by Scott Joseph.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Move, Crush, Count. This is a podcast sponsored and produced by J&L Marketing. I am your host, Scott Joseph, and today we are here at Findlay Toyota in Henderson, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas. Beautiful store, great store, but really excited about this. We've got John Barr on hand, and we are going to talk about maximizing profit opportunities. How do you increase sales and profit in a very fast-changing marketplace? And he's done an outstanding job with this, so should be a ton of gold nuggets, no pun intended, being out here in the West,
there you go.
To pull from this. So I'm excited. Let's jump right in, John.
Sure.
All right. The first thing I want, you've got a great story. We don't have to spend, I'm looking at all your pictures over here.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll spend a little bit of time on your rock and roll days. But let's hear a little bit about your background and your experience so the people listening or watching understand where you're coming from. And
no problem. I came to this country more years ago than I want to admit to, in the 80s, and I came here through music. I was a rock musician, a bass player. Came here to play with several really well-known artists. I toured in the 80s with Sammy Hagar, Ozzy Osbourne, a band called Rat. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
I guess I get played a lot on TV right now.
Yeah.
And finally Queensryche, and I always was pursuing my hope of being a big star in the music business, and I always use the expression, I was always the bridesmaid but never quite the bride.
Yeah.
But I had fun and I lived it, and any time that things were a struggle for me, wherever I lived in the country, and I lived from Florida to California, I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia, I lived in New Mexico, all over. Anytime things got a little tough, I found myself gravitating to the car business, and I'd sell cars. And it was really a great thing for me because from my experience of being on stage, being relatively extrovert, I had no problem talking to people, and it was a great business for me. And when I finally realized that the music was not for me in the long term, financially, I made the decision, moved to Las Vegas, and made a commitment to go to work in the car business, because from an education perspective, even though I was educated in England and at a pretty good level, nothing applies over here. I wasn't going to go back to school at the time. I was in my early 30s. So I said, well, I'm going to sell cars. And it all started in 1994 in Las Vegas. And I came to this store in May of 1998. And I've been here ever since.
It's an unbelievable industry and is really a hidden secret when it comes to the income that can be made. But I also think it is the people that do that have a strong passion for it.
I think so, and I'm very, very, very. I make a point of being very encouraging to my people about the ability to make a good living, and good living is important. I mean,
it is.
And the great thing about our business, there's nothing like online or being in the store for the experience. I mean, actually doing it from scratch at the store, and got a lot of young guys that come here and they're trying to find their way. Often didn't go to college, came here, we put them in, and they got a natural sense of the business and some aptitude. I get a great feeling when they suddenly say they bought a house or they've done something, they haven't got $200,000 in college loans to be a doctor or an attorney, and quite frankly, can do just as well in our business.
Correct. And a lot of people don't know it. What helped prepare you for where you're at now? So you sold cars, I get that, but obviously there's some steps in between that most people don't go to your position right from the sales floor.
Well, thank you. And I did go through steps, I can assure you. I came into the business as a salesperson, but what had happened for me is my experiences in life worked well. I mean, I've traveled well through the music business because when I was in the music business, I went all over the world 2 times to different cities, different places. I've got a pretty good memory. I mean, some people say I've almost got like a photographic memory, to whereas I remember places. And so I've learned something at an early stage in my business, or in my experience in this business, was that making a friend with a customer and finding common ground is everything. People are forgiving if they like you or they enjoy you. And so I made a point, and I've done it even up to recently in my current capacity, whereas when I meet someone, I try to find common ground. It's often I'll ask a question, I'll look, I'm paying attention. Are they wearing a rock and roll shirt? Are they wearing a military cap? Are they wearing a sports something or other? And I'll try to find that common ground to talk to them and be, so I like to be like, have enough knowledge in many areas to be able to hold a conversation, in turn to break down the resistance that comes in, because many people look on us as the worst experience other than going to a dentist, right?
Yeah.
So people tend to be pretty, they're actually, they seem to be, in my case, kind of, they like it, the fact that I can say, oh really, you're from Rock City, Davenport, Iowa, I played a club there. And they'll say, really? And I said, yeah, it was many years ago, and I'll name the club. Oh, San Antonio, Sneakers, or like we just discussed, Toy Tiger, right, in Louisville. And people go, wow, what did you play? Yeah, I was a bass player. Who did you play with? You know, wherever, you know, and what happens, suddenly we're talking about everything but the car deal. So when I say, listen, obviously I'm here, I want to make this as easy and painless as possible. Here's what you got, here's what yours is worth. This is that. And people go, oh, okay. As opposed to that old school, hey, my name is John, you know. You need to give me $5,000 down, your payment's going to be $800 a month. You know, like I don't know if you've ever seen those commercials, they have the beaver or something. Have you ever seen those?
I have.
You know exactly what I'm saying. So,
what's funny, I mean, it's still a people business. We're going to talk a lot about where things are headed from technology and making things faster and easier for customers, but in the end, it's still a people business.
It's all about people, relationships.
And you've done a great job from an employee retention standpoint at this store.
Thank you.
What type of, like, just describe your leadership and your culture. First describe your leadership kind of style.
Well, number one, I'm a general manager. This is my life. I mean, I do it for my daughter, but this is my life. But I'm here 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm here.
By the way, for the people who are succeeding at a high level, that number won't shock them. But for the people who are listening to try and pick off things to become more successful, sometimes they don't always know. I think Bobby Knight had a great quote. Everyone wants to succeed, everyone wants to win, but not everybody's always willing to do what it takes to win.
I think that's great. That is true, and I've heard similar things. I mean, I've been told by several very successful people. I had a conversation about 6 months ago with Jerry Jones, and it was he was here for the new stadium that we got, and he's big time behind it with Mark Davis. And Jerry Jones said to me, to be successful, he called me young man, which was very good actually, but he said to be successful, you've got to be in the office before anybody else, and you've got to be prepared to be the last one to leave. And, you know, he's obviously had great success. In my case, I believe relatively I've done pretty well. And there's nothing that any of my people do that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. I still talk to customers. I handle problems. I don't delegate and become a big shot. I mean, that's just really important, I believe, because your people will follow you if they believe that you really believe in them and are prepared to do what they're prepared to do. Yeah. It's a big deal to me.
That is a big deal. And so describe like the culture of this store, just so people get in, then we'll kind of dive into
We're a high-powered, fun place to work. It's not tense. We're a little bit easygoing. It's not like I'm wearing a shirt and a tie with my Rolex on my arm. I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't do that. My people, dress code, there isn't any as long as you're relatively smart.
So there's no dress code here?
No dress code. I mean,
right.
you'll find people out there with a pair of shorts on.
Business casual.
Business casual. Even kind of with this
They can
heat.
wear shorts.
They can wear shorts in the sun. They can
Nice.
wear them in the winter if they want to deal with it.
Here, yeah, 100, I mean...
115 degrees last week.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. Every morning, 6 days a week, I have a meeting, and I hold the meeting. And Monday, Tuesday.
How long are those meetings?
45 minutes to an hour.
So you're going to have to hold attention pretty decent time, and that's every day.
Every day. My Wednesday meeting, my Saturday meeting are all my managers. All my managers. So
it's not the whole store every
No.
day. Okay, you're breaking it out. Okay.
No. What I do is with my managers, which I've got probably 24 managers,
Yeah.
we meet and evaluate everything, and we attempt to teach culture. We reinvigorate, hopefully. We put people back in between the lines as far as what's necessary. We address things. We are a united group. We try to create fusion. With the salespeople, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I meet, and the way I've got the store set up is there's a morning shift and a late shift. So every other week you're morning shift, and you will have 4 training meetings that week. So what ends up happening is you probably have 8 to 9 training meetings for 1 hour every month over the things that are important to be good as a salesperson and to be cognitive of what's going on in our business. And that is religious. We do it. We train all the elements: leasing, used cars, negotiation, fact finding, everything. We make a point of it, and we train. And you know what? About the time you get to the 6th meeting, it's back to meeting number 1, because there's about 6 meetings, and that's what we do.
That's great. Do you have any, when it comes to solving challenges or issues, do you have any type of process or anything that seems to work well for you and your team?
I think that one thing that I believe is that I'm very transparent. I'm right here, right?
Yeah.
There's a glass window out to the showroom floor. On
Yeah.
Saturday, every table's full. This is about the quietest I've seen the place in months.
And just so everybody knows, let's talk a little bit about the volume of this store, because this is impressive here. So
Thank you.
Let everybody know, how many cars are you selling or delivering every month here?
An average month for us, new and used combined, is about 725.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We set a record for the Denver region on new cars last August.
Yep.
And yes, we're a high volume store. The great thing about selling a lot of cars, you also trade for a lot of cars. So we also wholesale probably 200 plus cars a month.
Yeah, and so you say, this is a light for what you're used to, but for someone that goes into a lot of stores, right, and 5% are of this size, most are much smaller.
Yeah.
It's funny because as soon as we hopped out, we Ubered here, as soon as we hopped out of the car, people were bouncing around, they're flying around here. It's not a slow place.
No, we just come off an extremely busy weekend.
Yeah.
Our service department does 300 ROs a day.
Yeah.
Which obviously equates to 6,000 plus a month.
Yeah.
In sales, we average in a weekday at 28 to 30 a day, and we do 50, 60 on a Saturday. And we're closed on Sundays.
Yeah, that's why everyone's like,
I'm here. Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so let's jump in. At what point for you, as you were stepping through and progressing up into the general manager position, at what point was there a breakthrough for you, I think, where things just kind of started to click and you knew in your mind, I think everybody that's successful has confidence, but where in your mind you also had evidence to support that says, you know what, I'm the right person for this, I'm really good at what and I don't mean that in a way for you not to sound humble.
I get it.
Where did that come and why?
You know, initially in this business, when I was a salesperson, I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out because of the music business.
Right. Well, your passion was elsewhere.
Right. And then when I made a decision to be full-time, I became a manager actually within 30 days.
Oh, wow.
A floor manager.
That's very fast.
It was pretty quick. And then what happened, when I became the desk man, to use that quote unquote, and given a team, I realized that the way I ran my team was different to everybody else. And the way I ran my team is that it was like having, to use a military expression or term, we were like a platoon, and we were all had each other's backs. And I enjoyed the competitiveness. I've created a competitive atmosphere in my store because I've learned that competition makes things thrive and people do better. I realized that because my initial entry into this business was working for a very old school guy, famous guy with a lot of people called Doug Spedding. And for me, it was great. But for people that weren't positive, motivated, made mistakes, were a little timid, it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was Harvard for the car business.
Yeah.
But what I learned was that I enjoyed, and I realized this was, at the time, what would happen is I had a team of people the same size as everybody else. And my team, because I got paid off for them, my team did, I was about to beat them. And when I was competing against these other teams, same opportunity. I tell my salespeople every day, there's people that are going to be at the top naturally, and there's going to be people at the bottom. But everybody's got the same opportunity. It's the same building. Everybody's got a cell phone, a computer, a landline. Everybody has no limitations as far as coming to work. If you want to come to work and be at 7 o'clock in the service drive and be here to 10 o'clock at night, that's an individual decision. But going back to my point, when I became the manager, my whole goal was, from a competitive perspective, was to kick their butts, all the other people, badly.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that because I like competition.
Yeah.
That is carried over now, and what has happened is I have pay plans that I've created here for the car business that are really unique. And what I mean by that is I pay the desk collectively together.
And by the way, I think this is great, even if you're not in the car business, because every business leader would like a better way, a comp plan that helps motivate or persuade people to do more, right? To where they really want to do more.
People need to. I mean, making fair compensation, it's not, profit's not a dirty word.
Yeah.
I mean, people are here to make a living.
Yeah.
And some people are more successful than others. And the thing about it is that when people, as a consumer, if I go out there and say, listen, I'm making no money on this car, then anybody with half a brain and common sense is going to say, well, why are you selling to me if you're losing money? But I can assure you that happens 50% of the time on every new car deal that's done in America.
Yeah.
In the whole country. Oh, we're making no money on this deal, whatever. And people don't believe that. And the trouble is that people don't realize, in most cases, it is a true statement. But people don't believe it. And it's crazy. So I try to approach it a different way. I try to get people upbeat and motivated. I've been blessed with a large advertising budget for many years, and that's enabled us to break into many households through the TV and so on. So
you know how you get large advertising budgets?
sell lots of cars.
That's exactly right.
And I get it.
That's exactly right.
And this business can be very much what have you done for me today.
There's a sales trainer out there, Grant Cardone, I know you know of him.
I get about 5 calls a week from him.
He'll be happy to hear that, by the way.
Yeah.
There was a funny thing I heard him say once. There were some small stores that wanted him to discount his stuff because they were small stores. He goes, and his response, he said this to them, why should I make less because you can't sell?
It's a great comeback. and the thing about it is, and that's, it's true. And for me, I think that it's really important that people understand that atmosphere, environment, everything's conducive and a big part of this. You know, I mean, the speed of the team is the speed of the leader.
Yeah.
And if the leader is a guy that's playing 4 rounds of golf a week and he's disengaged, guess what? You go by these computers and you'll see managers on Facebook and they're on Instagram, they're texting, they're watching YouTube.
That's right.
And they're not engaged.
That's right.
And we don't put up with that.
That's good.
You know?
So let me ask you this question. What do you think would be one of the biggest misconceptions that business leaders have when it comes to growing profit?
You know, profit comes in many forms. I mean, but I believe the number one thing to build your profit is building relationships within the store, amongst the consumers and within your community. I believe that when people know that you have a business that's an easy place to do business, you're going to be fair. It might not always seem 100% fair to the customer, but you're prepared to spend the time to make it make sense.
Yeah.
I think what happens is word of mouth, which is our strongest thing,
Yeah.
goes in your favor. I think it gets better.
Well, and the nice thing is when you're selling, the growth of everything that you're mentioning right now, when you ramp up and you start selling more and more cars and 700 and something on average, it's a lot of people out there talking about, hey, I just bought a car at Findlay Toyota.
Yeah.
So it compounds.
Yes,
it
it
just
does.
keeps growing. It grows faster.
I agree. In our business, a lot of people don't realize that you've got to start the month on the 1st.
Yeah.
A lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief. I just finished the month. We're doing bill out, whatever. Suddenly it's 6 days in and no one's got going.
Yeah.
And something I do with my managers a lot, we talk about where we are, what we're pacing, and what's going on. Because if you let it get away from you, catching up is not easy. Doesn't matter who you are.
No.
Doesn't matter.
And it creates a lot of stress, and we want healthy stress. We don't want the panic.
But you know, the reward is the earning opportunity, assuming you're doing a good job.
So obviously, for every business out there,
Yes.
big transitions happening right now.
Yes.
You've got the COVID stuff, and it's still going on. It's different than it was, obviously, in March and April when no one really had any idea what the heck was going on.
We're all nervous.
Yeah, and so, but let's talk a little bit about some of the things maybe you adjusted and did, and then I guess where I'm really going with that is not as much to know what those things are as much as what do you plan to keep doing that you learned, wow, where COVID taught you a good lesson and you're like, that is something that's going to help us grow even more, and some other things that you may have done and you're like, not so much, we probably won't keep doing that.
I think the first thing that we found is how much waste we have in our business. I think initially when our hands were forced to ramp down a little bit and to create the social distancing, send people home and all that, we found that our results were comparable with less than what we were getting before. I mean, it's been obvious in restaurants. I mean, you see what's going on there, that the capacity's less and yet people are still having success to some degree. We have a lot of waste in our business, a lot of layers. We also learned that we would be in a situation where we realized the importance of digital advertising. That was the big thing that we have really got good at, I believe, recently. Forced to, because it was the only way. Our front doors were locked. No one could come into the building. The only way is if they had an appointment. So we had to generate appointments in business, and it's all through emails, the internet, and through digital, and you know, through the media outlets, etc., etc., etc. And we found it was much more affordable as a platform, and that's crazy, and it kind of worked in our favor.
So what are your physical hours here? Just curiosity.
I get here in the morning, personally.
No, not you, the store.
Store. We're open in service at 7 o'clock, we're open in sales at 8 o'clock. But
And what time does everything close down typically?
10 o'clock at night.
All right. So, where you were just going with the digital, all right?
Right.
Here you are, you had to close the front end of the store.
Yeah.
Kept the back open because it was essential.
Yeah.
Right? So you're closing the front end of the store, which is no different than what you do every single day
Correct.
from 10 p.m. until opening at 8 p.m. the next day.
Yeah.
Whereas what's beautiful about all the digital things that you just said is, and your rent's going to be pretty high here. This is a big footprint.
A big one.
So,
Big one.
Yeah, you got an expensive. That's a big expense every single month. We pay for these museums, and the reality is, and then we shut them down half the day, or half the 24-hour period, right?
I wish we could go 24 hours a day.
But you can with digital.
Yes,
You know,
you can.
theoretically you
That's a
can.
good point.
You know, your
point.
digital showroom's open 24/7.
Right, we get leads. First thing I do in the morning when my guy comes in, how many leads we got for the day? And this is at 8 o'clock in the morning. He goes, I've had 28 so far since midnight, or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right.
So, what are some things that you think that you're like, you know what? All right, so you went the digital route, and you see it kind of, I don't want to say woke you up because you were already doing it, but the importance, it became more important to you, right? And obviously that's an area you're going to keep improving on.
Yeah.
What else?
That was important. Also, which is crazy, and it's addition by subtraction. What happened was the salespeople that we allowed to stay here were generally better, more personal, more able to, their ability level was higher. I was trying to think of a nice way to say it. And we kept the key people here. So we knew we were getting our best representation. Because there's a thing I always say to every car store, everywhere, wherever you are, there's supplies. Everybody's fighting to get more business. Everybody's fighting to get more business, right? In our case, we sell 700 cars a month. But we drive 2,500 people through here one way or another. Now, we got our 700, but what are we doing about the 1,800 that we didn't sell? And that applies to every car store in America. And quite frankly, anybody that's of a certain level of skill sets and understands it's also as well not lazy can go into any 300 or 400 car store and make it a 600 car store, I believe, in 3 months, just based on the leakage, or a 200 car store into a 350 store, because people come in and they leave, and they leave for many reasons. They weren't impressed by the person they were dealing with, because remember, you don't always know what your representation's like out there, do you?
Right.
And it's the biggest thing. The biggest thing in our business is not what we're getting, but what we're missing. And I stress that for them. There's not even an issue there. I believe it. I talk to my managers about it.
It's hard when you're always trying to grow. It's hard not to look there, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
You've got to. It's the biggest opportunity.
That's right.
And you bring people in. We have a business development center. Gay is in charge, and we have girls specifically. We have a gentleman in there, but specifically girls that do our follow up.
Yeah.
And they'll call, and there'll be instances where we'll have a deal that got out of here, and they went bought somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we missed the deal. Now, there's a lot that we win. Obviously, we sell more than anyone else, so we can't suddenly go, oh my God, we're missing deals. And there's a few we miss, but everyone does.
Why do you think, and not for necessarily your store, because my assumption, my educated guess would be applies to almost any store. What do you think the number one reason is you miss on the 1800?
On the 1800, the experience of the person representing us.
Okay.
Under-equipped person representing the store.
And that's what you learned then. What you're saying is during COVID, when you had less of that, and all of a sudden you're selling, how do you sell close to the same amount with a lot less people? It's because you had more experienced people.
Correct.
All right, so what are you doing to help fix that? Because obviously you can't stay, we could probably all permanently stay lower in head count than what we had before, but that's not, you can't go all the way down to what you were, that's not sustainable. So
we're continually working.
Okay.
And I might, there's a little thing, we were talking about 4 areas of improvement for us as a store. And I won't give you the other 3, it doesn't matter, because there are things that help. But the one related to salespeople is pay plan. I pay 50% commissions to salespeople up and above what we have it within built into the deal.
Right.
Now what happens, a salesman can come here and he can do a $3,000 deal and he'll make $1,500, so he's very driven. The trouble is there's a whole group of salespeople that don't sell that many cars, but get 3 or 4 of those to whereas they still can be okay.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I reduce the minimum amount of cars sold to be able to get the opportunity to get the 50%.
Right.
And it's helped.
Good.
So that's something we've done. And the thing about it is you can't teach a thing, you can't teach desire.
No, you can't.
If someone's got desire and wants to succeed, they will figure a way. If you've got someone that's inherently lazy, it doesn't matter, you get frustrated.
To be successful, it takes a lot of, in my opinion, self-discipline.
Yes.
Because you can't show up, learn what you have to learn, do the required work.
Right.
The really successful people always go above and beyond. They do much more. They learn on their own time. They practice. They rehearse. They go.
They have to.
Even another example, they just stay here and make sure they're working, trying to get more opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, and that's their own individual. I think you had said their own individual decision, right?
Right.
And so that just happens. What are some of the things that you're like, you know what? I'm glad we did this during this COVID period. We're not going to be keeping that forward. That's not that great. Was there anything there may not be anything. I don't know.
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the thing, I think that this thing hit everybody all over the country was initially very scary because we didn't know. And right now, I've learned there's a combination of beliefs, and we don't need to get into all the politics of it all specifically. Right. But there's a combination of beliefs about where it's at. But I think people are strong. They've learned to adapt according to what they're dealing with. And obviously, every state stands on its own. I mean, dependent on certain things. But we've learned to adapt because initially it was like, what are we doing here? What's going to happen?
Right.
And it's worked out good. But there's, you know, the thing about this business is that if you're not engaged, you can only do so well. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
This is our life.
So what are some of the things, one reason I love interviewing people in the auto industry is because the show is all about helping business leaders who are feeling the pressure of being marginalized.
Yeah.
And the auto industry, especially with the internet, is kind of being painted, the marketplace would like to paint us, a dealer, into what I call a commodity corner. It's because when you become a commodity, things become less expensive and it reduces, right? And so obviously the marketplace would love to see that. I know in our prior discussion you talked a lot about training, but one of the things that sparked my interest, and I know there are a lot of stores out there that do a good job with alternative buying methods, and you brought up leasing.
Yes.
But that is a true value add for the consumer because there are different ways to drive a car, and they're different depending on each person's individual situation. It's very important that dealership can advise them the right way to go.
I'll give you a great example. About 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a customer out in the lot.
Yep.
And outside, and they came inside, and we were talking about the fact that they were looking at a Corolla, and what had happened, they had purchased a Honda Civic, just to give similar cars, comparable cars.
I have 3 Honda stores, so far superior. No.
Right. I'm not going to go there. But here's the thing. I said to some, they had bought their last car, and it's kind of ironic. And they said, I said, what are you paying a month for your Honda? They go, oh, we got a great deal. We're paying $435 a month because they're buying payment for their Honda and all that. I said, all right, let me ask you a question. How long you had it right now? They said, 3 years. I said, really, 3 years? So that's a car that you could have probably leased for 260, 270. I know I've got 260, 270 payments on Corollas, all things being equal,
Right.
nothing majorly that affects the deal. So let me ask you a question. For the last 3 years, you paid 430 as opposed to 260. It's 170 a month for 3 years. You've spent an extra $6,000 to own this car. Do you own it right now? Yeah. No, you don't. You owe the bank money. So you spent an extra $6,000 to drive this car, and you could have leased it for $260 a month, paid $6,000 less, and the car's still worth the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? They go, he's right. I said, listen, on this particular car, I can't do this, but it's going to be $323 a month, which is still $100 better. And I won't even get into the profit, but it don't matter. But the point is, leasing is smart. The secret to the problem with leasing is this. Often it's used as a way to get a lower payment on someone that has deficiency. They owe more on their car than it's worth. What ends up happening is people forget. So what ends up happening is 2 to 3 years down the road when they go to get another car and they say, well, you owe 17,000 on this car, it's only worth 12. They go, that guy, he got me.
Yeah.
They have amnesia about the fact it went in with deficiency, and instead of them paying 700, they're paying 500 because they leased it.
Right.
And there's all that's gone out the window. Whenever I go into a lease, I have to find the information out before I go quoting numbers. Because if there's deficiency, leasing doesn't work for everyone if the deficiency is great. With interest rates as low as they are, you're better off in a retail buy on an extended term.
Yeah.
Because at least your taxes are handled and whatever. But if you are in a situation where there's no deficiency, it's the right vehicle with some special, and it's the lease, it works. I've had people lease 4Runners, Tacomas, Highlanders, FJ Cruisers, Tundras, and I've had them where 3 years into their lease, they got $7,000 in equity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason though
Yeah.
that it's important here as well is just the fact that, you know, if you're going to separate yourself or differentiate yourself, you've got to provide more value. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to get people, whatever you're selling, into the right product, solution, service, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of stores out there, even high volume stores, that don't do a great job leasing. So why are your people good?
We train. We train, we understand, and one thing that we really work on here is retention of our good people, our managers, but our salespeople. I've got salespeople who have been with us since 2000, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
They get repeat referral business. The toughest deal to make is the first one. Once you make the first one, provided you do the right follow-up and you're in with the customer enough, they come back to you for their car servicing needs or purchasing needs. Now, because they trust you, you're in a situation where you can make the process much easier, much smoother, and be fair to both parties.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what other things? So, the level of training that you do, making these. Let's face it. If you're a salesperson and you understand leasing on a surface level, right?
Yeah.
But not really.
Yeah.
You're not going to know when to use it and when to bring it out and when to propose it. And even if you do, you're still not going to be comfortable with it. So more than likely, you just don't even bring it up.
Right, and I don't encourage my salespeople to bring it up unless they're asked for it.
Yeah.
And if they're asked for it, obviously the first question is, are you trading anything in? We want to know that information. And then, are you cognitive of the fees included in a lease, which is obviously acquisition, payment, documentation, dealer fees, and first payment. And often a decapitalization number. Now I don't want to get too technical here, but the thing about leasing is, you know, it's an ad on the paper, $249 a month. They never put taxes because it's state driven.
Yeah.
And the small print doesn't show the $3,274 you need down.
Right.
Because if they did that, people wouldn't come in for a lease. Because they would say, well, I'm not going to put 30, because the amount of people that come in for a $269 payment, not a problem. We can do that on the specific car with this down. The problem is they don't have the $3,200 and whatever dollars down. How much you got? $1,000. Well, you realize your payment's going to adjust accordingly, and now your payment's going up the difference.
Right.
So it takes explanation, but leasing advertising is to drive people in here. But you've got to have an understanding.
So, and you can answer this either specific for you
All right.
and or store, or just in the industry in general.
Sure.
All right. What do you think some of the biggest challenges that business leaders face today in terms of growing sales and profit?
The quality of their representation is the number one thing. If you've got someone out there that is not capable of representing you in a professional manner with the personality to win somebody over, you've got money going out the door.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, and you've got to make sure that the people you're continually working on evolving them to be capable to represent you the way you want. Because let's be quite frank about it, in a business where small stores are losing 100 deals and big stores are losing 200-300 deals a month.
Yes.
A month.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to be going out of the window.
Yeah.
So it's about the people and the training.
So let me ask you this question. So you go through COVID and you've got your skeleton crew.
Right.
Is there a lot of people on your team that noticed, we can do more with less, and or do you feel it made it easier for you to kind of explain the importance of the training and the development of people for all the reasons you just said, right? The less skilled or the less trained or less experienced person is one of the main reasons that's causing you to lose deals. So that's your big challenge, right? COVID proved that the more people you can get in front of your more experienced people is a big win for you.
Right.
Does that help you sell that to people that are reporting to you?
Yes, and to add one step further, obviously everyone's always working towards to getting as many good people as they can.
Yeah.
For us to sell the volume that we want to sell, which is more than what it is right now, I have to get the people that aren't where they need to be to the point where they need to be, which in turn means that I'm improving them plus maintaining the others, which should hopefully mean we sell more cars.
Where do you see a lot of business leaders wasting time when it comes to trying to grow sales and profit?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Can I be really honest on this one?
Yes.
Having supposed gurus that come in that are experts that don't know nothing about it. When you can't do it, you become a teacher.
Yes.
And that's my honest, from the bottom of my heart, belief. So a lot of people will come in. I mean, listen, every car store in America or business would like to make more money. People can be very easily persuaded. So what happens is it's like an attrition thing. Someone that's really a good salesperson and a good salesperson can call any place. They go, listen, hi, my name's, can I meet with you? They can be very personable, they can be, charming and overwhelming. And listen, I'm going to come into your store and I'm going to have some meetings with your managers. We'll get them going. We're going to do this, this, and this. I want to have a sales meeting. I'm going to train them. We're going to talk about leasing. We're going to teach them how to UA trades. We're going to talk about the process, building relationships. We're going to do it. I'm going to be in the store for 2 days a month for the first 3 months. It's going to cost you $60,000, but I'm going to change your store around. And these guys go, sounds good. What the heck? Let's do it. He's good. And you go in and you make a little difference. But guess what happens? Once you're gone, back to the old habits.
So then how do you, if that's so what are you doing? I know you're training and you're doing your meetings 6 days a week and stuff like that. Is there anything else you're doing to help offset that? That challenge or that issue?
I'm training my people, and what's happened, like I said to you, my managers have been with me for so long that everyone buys into my same philosophy. We're all, my guys can become mini me's in process. And so what happens, we have a consistent message. I spoke to some of these big trainers, we've named them.
Yep.
When I say I spoke to their people, I said, can I ask you a question? You're telling me what you're going to do for me. But I will get specific about results, money, this and that. So you want me to pay you money to make me better, but I'm already, quite frankly, better than you. And I can honestly say that. Give me a break. I do my own training and my people will do it. Now, that's a very bold statement to make by me, and I don't mean that as a disrespect to anyone, because
No.
they're very, very good. But the problem is just like them, the people at the head are very good,
Yeah.
but their representation is only so good.
Right.
And so I've got someone that's maybe been doing it for 6 months, trying to do the old, and they're all hyper active, hyper energetic. Yeah, John, nice to talk to you. You know, we want to change your business today. And I'm going, please. And I won't even get into it.
What, not advice, what, in your opinion, what would you say to the stores that may not have, not every, let me say this first.
Sure.
This is like an NFL team.
Yes.
All right, so you know the auto industry. You probably, even if you're in Toyota, but you probably have a good idea of how many stores nationwide, out of 17, 20,000 dealerships, how many of them sell 700 plus a month, roughly? What do you think?
I bet you there isn't 200 or 300. Maybe.
All right, so
Maybe,
very low number.
maybe.
So when I say this is like an NFL team,
Yes.
all right, there's only so many general manager positions for this volume store.
Correct.
Which means, while there might be some bad NFL head coaches, those coaches are still better than most of the other coaches around
I
the
get
United
it.
States,
I
right?
get it.
Or they wouldn't have earned their
I
way.
know where you're going.
So
what's the talent pool like? Is where you're
well,
going.
what in your opinion, what should stores that don't have access to top talent? Some dealers might not have that general manager that can train. Maybe that's not their strength, right? So how do you tackle that challenge?
My challenge I'd say this. I'd say that any store in the country, any store, that's at 250 to 300 cars can be at 400, 450
Yep.
with just some attention to detail. But the speed of the team is the speed of the leader. And the leader has to have enough desire, enough passion, and there are people out there. They just need some help. And it just takes, the first thing is that the owner's got to recognize what he's got. And unfortunately, that's step number one. You've got to realize what you've got. If you've got someone in place that's doing you a good job, or if you've got someone that's semi-putting you together.
Right.
Because if you don't see it, you don't know it could be better.
Yep.
You think this is the norm, but it's never the norm. There's always more there. But it's about training, it's about relationships. It takes a while to build it doesn't take too long to get that initial kick, but now you have to maintain it. And maintaining it takes a little more.
Is there anything, in your opinion, where you think, something 5-10 years ago was true when it came to increasing sales and profit? This was true, but today, no.
Predominantly form of advertising.
Okay.
TV was very important. TV's expensive. And mailers were a big deal. Even up to 2-3 years ago, we were doing a lot of mailers. But what we found is you just keep going at the same people and they become numb to it and it was less effective.
Yep.
I think that TV is still important, but you have to pick your right events. Here we make a point of not just putting TV advert out there. We pick the Olympics, the Super Bowl, or football, should I say, the NCAA finals, sporting events where there's captive audiences that are really going to watch something that's live. Because right now TV's wasted if you're on Law and Order and someone's going to figure a way to watch it at a later time and not even look at the commercial.
Yeah. So I see the Peyton Manning picture back there,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of something you just said. So Papa John's Pizza.
Yeah.
You would think by watching television that they have this huge marketing and advertising budget.
Yeah.
And so, live in Louisville, and I've actually interviewed some of their people.
Sure.
It's quite small.
Yeah.
And there's no way you would think, because they've done what you just said. They took TV, and amongst other things, but on TV, they knew they couldn't outspend the other people, not other pizza places, but just other businesses buying for those same spot. They wouldn't be able to rise above all that noise and grab attention. So they got very focused on certain things. NFL games, you'll see them on, and to the point where it's so much that you think they're everywhere.
A good example for us is Thanksgiving. What do I know about Thanksgiving? Everybody's home with their family and everybody's watching football. So we make a point of having a commercial during all 3 games, a couple, because they know they're going to see us solid, and then Black Friday's the next day. Anywhere you are in the country, make sure you advertise strong on Thanksgiving Day, on all the football games, because that's how you drive traffic to your business. That's something I believe with a passion. So there you go. We do that every year.
Yeah, smart. All right, so is there anything we haven't discussed that you feel like would really add that for you has really helped you in terms of increasing sales, increasing profit, that you'd like to share with the audience?
For me, it's about atmosphere, attitude, training, and individual drive. It's that simple. If someone's not committed, they're only going to do so good, and if they are not trained, they can only do so good. And if their personality makes them less effective, all of those together combined are what make the difference. And it's hard. It's hard to find that person that's driven, smart, and embraces everything.
So one final question.
Yeah.
I would have to assume who you hire and bring in is important, especially if you've identified the reason why you lose deals.
Sure.
All right. What type of mindset, what type of person, and you know what? There's going to be a lot of people out there listening to this.
I'll tell you the truth. I'm going to give you the
Who
answer.
are you looking for, you know?
I don't want that guy that's been somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'd rather have someone inexperienced with enough drive as opposed to someone that's an expert, because I don't need any lot lawyers. And often what happens is if someone's been in the business for a while and says he's been successful, and remember, everybody in this business talks about that 45 car month they had like it was every month. They tell us really for the year. But the thing about it is that I don't want that cancer element coming in the store to whereas they're lot lawyers and they're spoiling everybody else. I want people with open minds that are fresh, that want to learn, embrace this business and do well.
There is nothing worse than having that lawyer, like the locker room lawyers, right?
My God.
Poisoning the whole system and dragging everybody down with them.
I will drive them out of here real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how I feel.
All right. Anything you want to say closing up?
Appreciate this. Enjoy meeting you, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. John Barr, Findlay Toyota, findlaytoyota.com, right? So if you're hearing this and you're in market for a Toyota, make sure you look that up. And I'm pretty sure you'll probably send it anywhere, right?
Oh, anyway.
So, and by the way, we're right in the middle of COVID situation here, so this will probably air a few weeks from now, but everyone's masked up. Everyone was so personable.
Thank you.
It was very nice. So you can tell you guys are taking that seriously. To the Move Crush Count Nation, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Scott Joseph, and we'll see you on the next episode.